Thank you for being here. This is the third webinar in our series, and as always, we're so excited to have you joining us. These sessions are brought to you by the Northwestern Community Services Board Prevention Department in tandem with Mental Health Awareness Month and our Let's Talk About Mental Health campaign. Last week's theme was building healthy routines, chalking time for a healthy you. And so today we're going to be talking about building healthy routines and the importance of those routines, especially in the time of COVID. So I'm just going to go through a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. First things first, participants will be muted and your videos will be turned off. We ask that you remain this way for the duration of this session. And we're going to do a Q&A section at the end, as always. So if any questions come up for you during this conversation, if you already have a pressing question that you want to ask, please feel free to ask that in the chat. You can direct your questions to Amber Rainey. She has the word host in parentheses around her name. And then she will get those to me and we will be able to ask those to our guests at the end. So at any point during this, please feel free to send your questions. So I'm happy to introduce Dr. Jaime Hutton. She will be our guest speaker today. Dr. Hutton has practiced pediatrics in Harrisonburg for over 9 years. Dr. Hutton is a Shenandoah Valley native and graduated from James Madison University. She then attended medical school at Medical College of Virginia, now Virginia Commonwealth University School of Medicine in Richmond, where she graduated in the top 5 of her class. She is board certified in pediatrics and brings a special interest in general pediatric care and development, newborns, and breastfeeding. Welcome, Dr. Hutton. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I think we're just going to jump right into questions. So I'm wondering if first you can just kind of explain the importance of a healthy routine and how it affects mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Routines are hard because you kind of have to set what you want to do. And as a parent, as a family, often you need a routine in order to get everything done. But routines are good for you and for your children. The routine helps the child have some security, some safety, and so it'll often decrease anxiety. It can even decrease some impulsive behaviors and acting out. And even for the parent, it can be more calming and accomplishing if you feel like you've gotten something done that day.
So I think, what I'm hearing you say is that routines are healthy for every member of the family.
They are, yeah, particularly for mental health. I mean, they can decrease anxiety, depression, ADHD symptoms. They're very healthy.
So I know, at least for myself, the concept of a healthy routine is wonderful, but actually putting it in place is more challenging, as you just said. So do you have any tips for establishing healthy routines and then maintaining them?
Yeah, it depends on the age of your children, the size of your family. And so if you have older kids, you can often sit down and make a routine together of what needs to be done, and you can make it a team effort. With younger children, you're just going to have to take charge. You're going to have to sit down and decide what you need to get done that day and what you want to get done that day. And then make often a routine according to wake up time, eating times, bedtime, and then fit in everything that needs to be done. When there's school, often we can get into a routine easily because we have to get up, we have to get ready for work, we have to go to school. But during this crazy pandemic, it has thrown a lot of families into a tailspin because this is just something totally different that we've never had to deal with. There isn't school, so often there's not wake up times, there's not bedtimes, you just kind of are flying, and so you had to totally adjust everything. So getting to establish that routine is often just figuring out what you need to get done.
Yeah, and I know we've, not that any of this is normal, but that we're starting to kind of get into some normalcy because now we've been doing this for a few months. But for a lot of families, it's about to change again because any of the responsibilities that might have come with school are now disappearing. So I like that you said when we don't have things, it's kind of important to implement some structure. So I know something that I'm hearing from a lot of parents right now that's really hard is balancing childcare and trying to maintain routines while also balancing the responsibility of work from home. Do you have any kind of thoughts or advice on how parents can navigate balancing routines while practicing their own self-care and time management?
Yeah, this working from home thing is definitely a new thing for a lot of us. And trying to manage the children, the house, and working all at the same time, literally, is very challenging and definitely takes on a new look to your everyday life and a new look to your routines. So often it's good to figure out work-wise what you need to get done work-wise, and then breaking things into chunks. So if you can say, okay, I can sit down and work for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to go play with my kids for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to work for another 45 minutes, and then we're going to go have lunch, or we're going to go outside, and breaking it into smaller chunks. That way you're not pushing the kids off to the side and expecting them to be quiet for hours a day. Mm-hmm. And then you can also accomplish things without you getting as distracted from other things, from emails and laundry and everything else that you need to get done.
Yeah, the chores that are always present seem even more pressing when you're working from home because they're surrounding you.
Yeah, you see it. You see the bed not made. You see the laundry piling up. And it's definitely kind of in the back of your head of, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. So yeah, the routine is definitely a hard thing during all of this, but can be helpful.
Yeah. And so what I've heard you say a couple times is identifying what needs to get done and what you would like to get done. How do you kind of sort through those categorizations to find a way to fit everything into the same schedule?
Yeah, so often sitting down and writing down what needs to get done, like you need to work for 4 hours that day. You need to feed the kids, clearly. You need to do a load of laundry or something like that. And then figuring out, okay, I need to get these 5 things done, but I also want to make a half an hour where we can go for a bike ride. Because it is important to put that self-care in there, to put that family time in there, so you aren't neglecting the things that keep you happy and healthy and going, and you don't get overwhelmed. So figuring out the specific needs and breaking them down to, okay, well, the laundry can wait till tomorrow, but today I have to take the dog to the vet or something, and then you can figure out how to just fit it all into that 24-hour period that seems like it goes by way too fast, even when you're home all day long.
Yeah, something we shared on our social media this past week has been the importance of flexibility in routines. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to that as well.
Yeah, flexibility is important. It's hard with younger kids. It's really important to keep that structure and keep that routine, because that helps them fall asleep easier. It helps them know, okay, it's dinner time. We're going to eat right now. I'm not going to be able to eat 5 minutes from now. And so being flexible with younger kids is a little bit harder, because once you get them off the routine, they won't sleep. Sometimes they're just fussy and grouchy. They won't nap. But as they get older, that flexibility definitely can be much easier. But even with the younger kids, having some flexibility during vacations, weekends, pandemics can help show them that the routine's not mundane. They don't get bored with the routine. That you can put something exciting into your day, and that it builds their resiliency, their sense of self, their sense of control with you, and their comfort with you.
So, a little bit of flexibility is important, but like you're saying, having that structure is really good. What happens when we get off track and when we're not there with the structure, we're not there with the routine? What can we do then?
Yeah, so when you get off track, that's often when you'll see all those sleep issues, eating issues, behavior issues. And so getting back on track can be hard. It can take some time. It can take days to get that child back into their sleeping routine, back into their normal daily routine. And so you can always go back to the schedule you had set initially, or you can look at it and say, okay, it's summertime. This schedule's not working anymore because we don't need to do schoolwork. We can work a little less right now. And so you may need to make a new schedule at that time of getting back into a routine that fits during that period of your life, because it's amazing how life changes just from day to day. None of us expected this pandemic. None of us prepared for this. So falling into it, a lot of us the first couple of weeks were like, oh, this is vacation. We'll just chill out. We'll let the kids sleep. We'll let them do whatever they want. And now that we're 10 plus weeks into it, getting into a routine in order to help manage everything is important, but it's going to be a totally different routine than what you had 10 weeks ago.
Right. And so I think you bring up a good point. Well, you mentioned resiliency, and then also recognizing that our plans or routines do change. And that can be really difficult for some children to have their routine shifted. And, now we've adjusted sort of to this life in self-isolation and quarantine, but soon we'll be sort of transitioning out to some degree. I mean, I know that's all up in the air, but how can we help children adjust when plans or routines change? What are your tips for that?
If possible, preparing them is important. So if you know that daycare is going to be starting in 2 weeks, start talking to them. Okay, well, you're going to be going back to daycare. Are you excited about that? You're going to go to daycare where mommy works at home all day, and then mommy's going to pick you up, and then we're going to have dinner. And so kind of going through their schedule, even though they're young, they're not going to remember it. But if they know that change is coming, they won't be as off guard and as scared by it. If you don't know the change is coming, then it can be hard to prepare them, but your reaction is really important. You are literally their structure, their safety. And if you respond well, if you say, okay, well, we're just going to do this a little different today, and this is what we're going to do, and you show them some positives to it of, well, we get to be home more now, or we get to have dinner together every night now, then that can definitely help them to handle the change easier and be more positive and optimistic also.
Yeah. I like what you said about modeling for them, or, showing them that this is okay, that we're going to be okay with this new routine. We've talked about, that's come up, I think, in each of our webinars so far. Just the importance of being there for your kids and showing them that it's going to be all right, that you can handle it.
And it's for us as adults to have reminders of that too, because sometimes as we have these changes, it's just such a shock that we don't remember that we have all these little people, or even big people. I mean, I have teenagers that are looking at you and your response, and how are we going to handle this, and how are we going to deal with this as a family? How are we going to get through this? And if you let your emotions take over, it can be really hard on them too. And as a pediatrician right now, I'm starting to see a lot of kids with a lot of anxiety about all of this. It's good to talk to the kids about, the virus, and that it is scary, but that you're safe, that you're home. Because if you make it where it's so scary, we're not going anywhere because you could die or something like that, that makes such an impression on them that their anxiety can really overrun their emotions. It can make them feel bad. It can make them sick, not want to interact. So it's really important how you handle these things.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I saw a question come in from someone watching that I think relates to that. Especially, like I said, as we're moving into new guidelines and different phases, how can we manage our children's anxiety about the new guidelines and changes? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, definitely talking to them about the changes. Wearing a face mask for kids 2 and up is very foreign, very odd. Many kids don't like it, but if you wear one and you reassure them, this will keep you safe, this will keep you healthy, just leave it be, that it will eventually go away, but this is what we have to do right now. That can definitely help them not be so anxious about it, not be so scared about it. As you start going back out, you have to stay home, you can't go out. So now as you start going out a little bit more, reassuring them, okay, well, we have this under control. The doctors and nurses know what to do now. They know how to handle it. If you do get sick, we have the resources that we need to take care of it. You'll be okay. We know what to look for. There's been many times that I've even talked to the kids myself in my practice that they won't leave the parents. But if you contact your pediatrician or you talk to a counselor and have them just reassure the kids, that sometimes can be even better and a little more concrete to them that it is okay.
Yeah, sometimes getting that outside support really helps.
They never believe mom.
I know someone else says the exact same thing, but that other person is the genius. um, so again, kind of on this same, in a similar vein, we just got a question that said, "How do I manage feelings of guilt when I don't feel like I can handle it? Either the anxiety of this time or being on the routine from a parent."
Yeah. So it's okay to get help yourself. It's okay. There's so many resources available at our fingertips right now with the web. Headspace has been offering a ton of free things, and it's a great app website that has things for parents, things for kids, things to teach parents how to manage the kids and how to reassure the kids. It's important to know what you need and to take priority of your own health too. And even if it's physical health, if working out 30 minutes a day allows you to feel a little less anxious, a little less depressed about it all, then that is a need in your day, not a want. That is something you have to make a priority. And it can be hard as a parent because you try to make your children the top, the most important thing. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of them.
Um, Thank you for that. That's an important reminder, I think, for everyone. Um, we're getting some really good questions. Thank you, everyone, for sending these in. Please keep them coming. This participant asked, "How do you manage routines with children in different age groups? For example, I have a toddler and a school-aged child."
Yeah, that's definitely been tricky because I have a very similar at my house. I mean, my youngest is 8, my oldest is 15, so their routines are completely different. And so trying to get them on a routine, sometimes you have to focus on one first and get them on a routine and then go to the next. And doing that homeschooling with a toddler or with different age grouped children from elementary school, middle to high school, it's definitely hard to figure out what each one of them needs. And so the school age child, often you can talk to them and figure out, okay, how can we fit into our day what you need? And then the toddler, you basically have to take control. They're not going to really know what to do. But if you take control and you're positive and you keep that consistency, then that toddler will fall in. And so it definitely can be hard to balance, but if you work as a family, it's a lot easier to do.
Mm-hmm. And when working as a family, do you think there's a benefit or a place for having the older children sort of helping with the routines of the younger children?
Oh, absolutely. My teenager helps my elementary school child all the time because he remembers how to do it a lot better than I do. I mean, yes, I've been to school for decades, but I didn't do math the way they do it now. And so he can definitely sit down and help them with math. And it gives them some responsibility too. Because often with the teenager, you'll give them a little more leeway because they know what to do. They can take care of their schoolwork. Most of them can, by the time they're in high school, can have a pretty good routine of getting things done. And so saying, will you help this child do this at this time of day, every single day, it's good. It also will make them wake up.
That's an important part of the day.
Yeah.
We're getting another question. Do you think that using charting with kids can help with routines? Is there a place for rewards in helping to set those routines?
Absolutely. Yeah. It depends on the child. It depends on the family. Those of us that are very type A like to have that list. They like to have that chart. Melissa and Doug makes a great chart for a toddler or even young school age child where it has like make your bed and put your dishes in the sink, and you can pick the little things that you want them to do in their routine and their magnets, and then they get a star magnet for one that they did. And then you can definitely make a system of so many stars that day. You get to pick the movie on Friday or something like that, where it can be a positive thing, something for them to look forward to. And it depends on the child. Some children love rewards, others could care less. And so if your child is one that likes that positive reinforcement, likes that reward, then definitely go for it, do it. The ones that aren't so big into it, you'll have to find something else to entice them, something else to make it worth their while to do what you want them to do. So some kids can be hard to figure out what that is.
And I'm just thinking back earlier, you said that it's helpful to bring your children into it sometimes and have them help you decide what the routine will be like. I imagine that can be really helpful to have a conversation with them about what might be enticing or feel like a reward to do some of those routines.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Finding their likes and what would make them do what needs to be done can be very helpful because sometimes, I mean, their likes will change almost every day. And so you're going to have to be flexible of changing that reward. If you keep the same reward all month long, by the end of the month, they might not want that reward anymore. And so you may have to be a little flexible and change it as you go.
Yeah. We have another question, again, kind of in the same vein. I know that each child is different, and you probably won't have one answer to this, but one of our participants is wondering how much of their child's time should be structured.
You do want some unstructured play, letting them kind of be them. But most of the time, you're going to need a good 70% of your day to be somewhat structured. So they will wake up at the same time, they'll eat, they'll go to bed at the same time, they'll nap if they're of the age to nap. The older children, you may not need that much to be structured. You may only need 20 or 30% to be structured because they can get everything done in that time. But then the rest of your day is still, we eat lunch at this time, we eat dinner at this time together, we go to bed at this time. So it's helpful to have a good percent of your day to be structured.
Mm-hmm. We have another question. Any suggestions for creating a potty training routine while working from home full time?
That's hard because potty training's pretty intensive. Often it's something you'll have to take the child every 1 to 2 hours to sit. You'll have to have those positive reinforcements. And so if you're working at home and you're trying to do potty training, keep that in mind that your work's going to be 30 to 40 minute chunks at a time. Then you're going to have to go spend 15, 20 minutes of them sitting on the potty, you rewarding them or cleaning up their mess or whatever it may be. But if you know that it's going to be smaller chunks throughout the day that you can get work done, then I don't think you'll be quite as frustrated and you'll be a little more positive with them, because keeping potty training positive is super important. If it's negative, if it's too much pressure on them, they will push back and it will not happen. And it's so hard because as a parent, you know they can do it. You know that they have the ability to do it, but them wanting to do it is the key. And so you just have to be patient and take your time.
Something I have heard you say multiple times throughout this is kind of setting the expectations for yourself that you'll need breaks, or for your children that this is important and they're going to be held accountable or whatever. I think the expectation is an important part of the routine setting, really on all fronts.
Absolutely.
So this question says, it's not 100% routine related, but while we have a pediatrician on a call, what are some concerns with kids and COVID? I think maybe what they're asking is, what are ways to make sure you're keeping your kids safe as we start to move into the next phases?
Okay, yeah. So we know a lot more about kids' symptoms, that a lot of times they are very, very mild. There's the new multi-inflammatory illness that has been published a lot recently in the news that is a little scary to parents, but it's important to keep in mind that it is very, very rare, but that's not necessarily a ticket to go to the beach with 50,000 other people and think that everything's going to be fine. And so listening to what you're supposed to be doing and doing it with your child and being consistent is important. So having them wear a mask if they're 2 and up, continuing to wash hands well, taking hand sanitizer with you, trying to keep the social distancing. If you want to have some more social interaction with other children now that you can, that it's a little more open, talk to the child that it's only going to be one child at a time, one family at a time. We're going to make sure that they haven't been sick. And this is all just to keep you safe. We don't want to scare you. We just want to make sure everybody stays safe. Is important to definitely keep in mind.
Well, thank you so much for that answer. I know it wasn't exactly routine, but still on all of our minds at the moment.
Absolutely.
I think I'd love to close with just one more question about routines. When do you think it's a good time for a parent who is struggling to implement the routine or struggling to make it work at home? When's a good time to reach out who can they go to for help? What are some resources for parents who are trying to set these routines for their families?
It's good to know when you're getting to that point where you're about to be overwhelmed. You don't want to be overwhelmed and explode.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this is the very beginning of setting the routine of, gosh, I can't do this, I need help, I'm just drowning, then do it then. If it's 6 weeks into it of, oh my gosh, this is just so much, I need help, then that's okay to a time to do it also. There are many really good resources. The pediatricians are helpful. Our volumes of patients aren't nearly as much, and so we will definitely take the time to talk to parents about something like a routine or something like their child's behaviors and anxiety and depression. There are many counseling resources available. The Community Services Board in each different locality definitely has services available. They even have emergency services available. You can often find those numbers off of Google, but the pediatrician usually has those numbers too. And so don't hesitate reaching out. There are many good online resources. Headspace, I mentioned, is a great one that you can go to for online. Sesame Street for young kids has some really good programs of, keeping you healthy and being safe and getting into a routine. And it's all very positive. So that's one that I've really liked for the younger kids. Often if you Google, you can find a lot of different resources that may work for you. Your insurance right now often offers a lot of free stuff also. Will this stay free forever? No, not necessarily, but feel free to take advantage of it now. And so reach out at any time, and there's so many different ways to do it. Family is a great way too. If you have a significant other, a spouse, get them involved, let them help you. Don't feel like just because you're mom, you have to take care of everything. Or if you're dad and you're the one staying home, you have to take care of everything. Talk to one another and figure out how you can divide it up. I'll be honest, my husband did a lot of the homeschooling because he was home more. But then when I got home, I did the cooking and the cleaning and some of the things to get that off of his plate. Talking to parents, grandparents, if they're able to even just FaceTime with you to help you reassure that, they've been through a lot. They've dealt with a lot. They've made use. They're doing pretty good. And how they manage change and how they were able to get through everything can be really reassuring that you're not alone. Reaching out to other families, other moms or dads or parents in the area and talking about the way they're managing things, it can be really helpful too, because they'll know some resources that you don't.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and it's actually a perfect segue into next week's topic is forming those connections. That's what we'll be talking about all this week and in our webinar next week. But I do think being able to rely on our support systems and go to others for advice and insight and just encouragement is huge always, but especially in this time where we're physically distant. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's hard because a lot of people don't want to say their insecurities or their weaknesses to other people. But often when you talk to somebody, they have the same ones, and you're not alone. You're not doing this and you're the only one in the world that is suffering with it. And so feel free to reach out to talk to others. It's funny because a lot of the introverts probably never realized how much they needed people until right now. When they can't be around other people, they're like, oh, yeah, I do kind of like going out a little bit or talking to this mom every once in a while. Soccer practice, and you talk to other moms or other families. You never realized how much you actually enjoyed it until it's been all taken away.
Yeah, now we have to be a little bit more intentional. There's not that casual at soccer practice conversation. So it can be a little bit intimidating to reach out in that way, but like what you said, it's important to do that. It helps us. Awesome. Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Dr. Hutton, especially for sharing some of your insight and your wisdom with us and encouraging us to make connections and build those routines always, but especially in this time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I just wanted to share with everyone, like I said before, our topic for this week is connecting with others, talking together. So like always, you can see that on our social media. We'll be sharing resources and images of community members talking together. And like we mentioned before, we're just going to be emphasizing that we can still be close while being physically distant. Our next webinar will be next week. We're going to go back to our Monday time, and we will send out the link for that at a later time. Once we have that for you, we'll send that out to you. We also have our newsletter where we share all the events and resources that we have for community members. So if you want to receive that, if you're not already receiving it, feel free to send your email to Amber in the chat, and we'll get you added to next week's newsletter. And I think that's all we have for you. So thanks for being here. Again, thank you, Dr. Hutton. We hope everyone has a great week.
Have a great week.
Bye.